remarks or announcements about recording or anything like that?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first of our legislative bill update for the environmental bill reports. And we appreciate your being here. Jeff's going to kick it off. We are recording, and this will be available on our website later on today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Appreciate it. And yeah, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. I'm going to start with just kind of the big picture. Since this is our last call before the start of session, I figured I'd start with some calendar items. So today, by close of business, is the last day for bills to be essentially approved in final form at their bill drafting stages. The deadline for bill filing is noon or the start of session, so Tuesday. Um, the session will run until March 8th. The last committee meetings will be we'll have to finish by February 27th, the 50th day, and that last 10 days is that so they can focus on the appropriation bill. So next week, again, the start of session is Tuesday. Next week, the first environmental committees will begin to meet in the Senate on Wednesday. 8:30, Environmental Natural Resources is meeting, and after lunch is environmental approach. On the House side, kind of similar situation. They're not, the joint session to open is on Tuesday, and they've got their first standing committees meeting on Wednesday. Interestingly, in the House, they've split environmental policy bills among two committees now, Water Quality Supply and Treatment Committee. This is a new committee for the 23-24 term, and then the Ag Conservation and Resilience Committee. So we're tracking two policy committees, and then the Appropriations and Natural Resources committee is the same. So they're all meeting on Wednesday. In your bill tracking list, and thank you, Laura, for getting that out. We're going back to the format from last year with a PDF with clickable links. So this PDF was sent out yesterday afternoon by Laura. Thank you. If you notice this is ordered by bill number for this week. Going forward, I think I want to get it sorted like we did last year, Laura, by last action, so that the bills at the top will be the ones that are moving, and the bills at the bottom will be the ones that have had less activity. Right now, this is ordered by number, so there's no particular organization here than other than just they were numbered as they were filed. So this is by filing date. So not by importance, and certainly not by activity. And then when you open this up, you can also get a clickable link on these bills, and I'll just pick this first one to click on, just so you can see the Lobby Tools bill report. It's a nice tool, especially for free, to get into more Lobby Tools detailed information. It's behind a paywall, but their free bill report is actually a pretty decent report, and you can get a link to the original bill is this PDF link down here. Any amendments are also linkable. You can see the linked amendments in a PDF form, and then the latest version. In this case, the original bill was 0032, and it had a committee substitute after its first committee stop. It passed favorably, and this amendment was filed onto this bill, and now it's refiled as a committee substitute. So if you click on this PDF link, you'll actually get the latest version of the bill. So pretty handy tool. Hopefully that's a quick run through for y'all if you do want to do a deeper dive. But for this call, what we're going to do is, as we've done in prior years, is I'm just going to run through these relatively quickly. I'm highlighting a few things that I think y'all may care about. Certainly stop me and ask me questions. If I can't answer them today, I'll get back to you either by email or next week. And as the madness increases, we'll start to triage and spend more time on the bills that we care about or the bills that are moving. But for now, I'm just going to go through all of them. Everybody okay with the rules of the road before I dive in? Any questions before we start? All right. Hey, thanks, Shaw. Appreciate it. Okay, so again, in no particular order, we talked about this before Christmas. This is a rule. This mangrove replanting and restoration by Garcia, SB 32, has no house companion. This simply requires the department to adopt rules for mangrove replanting and restoration. There are already rules for trimming, but this would expand, presumably would expand the mangrove trimming rules to include replanting and restoration. Hasn't been scheduled, excuse me, it has gone through its first committee stop in the Senate favorably, but there's no House companion. This next set of bills, I'm going to cover them at the same time. This is the Waste Reduction and Recycling Plan bill by Stewart, companion by Casello. It has gone through its first Senate committee stop, has not moved on the House side, but this the way I think about this bill is there was a recycling goal that the legislature put in place, I don't know, 10 years ago, that would require the state to get to 75% solid waste recycling by some date in the future. I think we missed that or missed one of the milestones. I see this as a kind of a refresh of that effort. Again, it is moving in the Senate. I haven't seen any activity in the House. If this is something, recycling is something that interests you, yeah, please do keep an eye on this one, and I'll watch it as we go through session. These next two bills are revisers bills, which is just a fancy word for a cleanup or a glitch bill. These two are flagged here because there are some revisions that are taking place in statutes, in the environmental statutes, 373 and 403 and 161, maybe 380. Those are the statutes that most of us care about and our environmental bills come out of or derive from. We'll watch them just for sport. I don't expect to see any real tweaking, substantive policy happening here. This is intended simply to clean up the language and or to delete obsolete statutory references and then to update things like when an agency name changes, like, DEO went back to Department of Commerce. So this is we'll update those terms in current statutes, and that those terms exist in a lot of places. So it requires a lot of pages to get all those things done. This next pair of bills, the dredging and beach restoration bills, this is a reboot from last year. There was a pair of bills last year that addressed the same topic. This would require the department to have an adverse impact analysis performed for dredging activities. This specifies what that analysis must require or must contain, and it requires notification of adjacent local governments. It's perceived to be pretty onerous and unnecessary by like the Florida Shore and Beaches Preservation Association. I think they've been opposed to this bill. If you're in the coastal or dredging, beach dredging or inlet dredging for seaports, then this is going to be important to you. Notably, I think it does exempt inlet dredging for seaports. So I think the seaports actually are okay with it, or at least they're not yet involved in it. Something to keep an eye on, though. It's been referred to committees, but no committee schedules yet. The Safe Waterways Act is, I see it as kind of a misnomer. I didn't know what to expect when I saw the bill title once I start reading it, but it has to do with the bacteriological sampling of beach waters and public bathing places. So this bacteriological monitoring or surveillance program has been at the Department of Health since it was created. This is being transferred to the Department of Environmental Protection. Not much else in here. It has not been scheduled for any committee stops yet.
Can I ask a question about that?
Of course.
Is a public bathing area considered like these water fountains you have at different parks?
No, ma'am. That's going to be continue to be regulated by the Department of Health. They call those water play features, I think. That's where the kids like splash pads, things like that. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
That's in the swimming pool regulations, and the swimming pool regulations will remain with Department of Health.
All right, thank you.
This is just like E. coli sampling at beaches and springs and places like that. Okay. Now we're going to, get into kind of the second half of the list. There's some more interesting things in here. We talked about a group of bills that contain references to stormwater management system side slopes. 406 is one of them. 738 and 789 are the other two. This is another kind of interesting feature of the way bills are grouped together. Lobby Tools does this, and even the tracking systems for the House and Senate do this. If there's a companion bill that is exactly the same, it will say identical. If it's related to or has some common features, it will say compare. And if it's not quite identical, but it is almost identical, I think the similar is something that maybe Lobby Tools does. But anyway, it's interesting to me. I just want to point that out. So there are 3 bills that contain this side slopes provision. The Rodriguez and Burgess bills are pretty close together. Overdorf has a few more features. I'm going to talk a little bit more about his bill, and Burgess has some of the same features as Overdorf. But if you're watching this stormwater side slope thing, that's in 406 in a cleaner version. While I'm talking about it, let me go ahead and skip down to the other two so I can keep my thought together on these. So these bills, environmental management by Burgess 738 and environmental management by Overdorf 789, these are the closest to that I've seen in a few years to what we used to call environmental train bills that have 10 or 12 or more different little tweaks to environmental regs. This contains a lot of tweaks here. I don't know that we're up to that 10 or 12 figure yet, but it certainly has the makings of a train bill. And so it's got a lot of things. One of the things that I wanted to point out here is that it requires something kind of a comprehensive review of, there's a typo here, of the coastal permitting program. That's in both of these. I think it also includes a review of the ERP programs because it does tag water management districts as well. Both of these have the side slope provision. So if that's something that somebody's got a burr under their saddle and they want to get that side slope provision tweaked, it could be done in Rodriguez's bill or in this pair. It does have some prevailing party provisions about rule challenges. It has some cause of action features in here. So it's got a little bit of things for different stakeholder groups. So definitely a pair of bills to watch. We'll be watching it closely. Right now, the Senate has not scheduled this for any hearings, and I don't think it's been scheduled. Yeah, it hasn't been scheduled in the House either. But they have been referred to committees, and we'll just be watching for them to hit their first committee stops.
By any chance, is non-industrial, does that include a municipality?
No, this has to do with what the stormwater management system is treating. So stormwater management on an industrial site has a different type of permit. Stormwater management for residential communities, streets, municipal or private, doesn't matter, but just runoff from the landscape, not contacting an industrial site or industrial activities is what this is referring to.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to get back into the flow here. I think I didn't. Oh, I skipped. Okay, I skipped a couple. So this is Casello's companion bill on the solid waste recycling plan. This is an excise tax on bottled water. Senator Linda Stewart filed it. This comes out maybe every year, maybe every other year. It's never passed. This does not have a companion, hasn't been filed, but I'm just pointing it out. Bottled water tax bill. We talked about, oh wait, no, we haven't talked about this one yet. So Randy Maggard filed this bill. It's pretty interesting. It's very, I think I mentioned this on our last call. It's very ambitious, certainly a feather ruffling type of bill. I don't see it ever passing, but I just thought it would be worth spending a minute just to explain what's in here, at least just for the laugh factor. So this would require that local governments that have passed in ordinances or land development regulations setbacks or buffers from wetlands or waters, that they have to condemn those buffer zones by eminent domain. So he's basically saying that those setbacks from waters and wetlands are takings that have to be, those takings have to go through eminent domain, and the landowner has to be compensated for the taking. So again, it's a pretty dramatic shift in kind of the structure of our regulations. That's never been considered a taking. It's been considered normal or within the authority of the department or the local governments through their kind of general police power powers. But anyway, so very interesting. This is probably just as dramatic. It would preempt the regulation of all dredge and fill activities to the state. So essentially cuts the program authority for like Hillsborough Environmental Protection Commission or Miami-Dade, Durham, etc. So anyway, very, very interesting, but probably not going anywhere. There is a companion in the Senate as well. This is the dredging impact analysis companion in the Senate. We talked about these. Burgess here. This is the companion for the preemption bill, and we talked about 738. We're getting close to the end here, folks. There's still not a ton of environmental bills yet. This next one is 784 by Gruters. This is a waterway marker bill. Does not have a House companion. I'm going to reserve my opinion on it. Here's Overdorf's bill. We talked about that. The mitigation. So now there's a couple bills here at the end I want to spend a little bit more time talking about. These are interesting to me. I know there's been a lot of chatter, particularly in Northeast Florida, but I think there's some chatter all around the state about the lack of available mitigation credits, and so I'm anticipating some interest in mitigation policy. This is the first bill I've seen in a long time that would amend the Uniform Mitigation Assessment Method, or the UMAM rule, for scoring wetlands. This particular one would remove the risk factor in certain situations from the UMAM, and it also tweaks encumbrances for mitigation. So it's a couple of mitigation related tweaks. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Haven't seen a House, there's no House companion and no committees of reference yet. So that's probably an indication that there's not a lot of leadership support for this yet, but that doesn't mean that won't change. This next couple of bills are also interesting. If y'all follow the environmental enhancement area legislation from the last couple of years, that creates a kind of a new category of water quality banks. I saw this pop up, and it appears to be a tweak to that those types of activities. Interestingly, the House version was withdrawn after filing. The Senate version does not have a committee reference yet. So this may be an indication of a kind of a dead on arrival status for this pair of bills. But I'll keep an eye out on it in case that changes. So again, I know that was pretty quick. Has anybody seen bills come across your desk or see them in the news or whatever that I haven't covered that we've somehow missed on our tracking list?
This is Lynn Walker. I don't have a lot of information, but I understand that there's a bill that is regarding advanced wastewater treatment facilities and a reduction. I want to think it's a reduction of nitrogen. I don't have a lot of details, kind of heard it in passing. But have you heard of any bills that may be coming out that would impact wastewater treatment systems or the regulatory limits that they are held to?
I have not, but I will certainly keep an eye out. That would be something that is interesting to me, and I will dig around a little bit and see if I can't come across with anything. If I do, I'll make sure it's on the list.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Hey,
I'd love
I've
to
not
hear
seen
your.
anything further.
Bob and Matt, you guys jumped on each other.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just said I have not seen anything further than
Oh
what you
yeah,
covered.
kind of an elephant in the room that I know a lot of people are waiting to see is the stormwater ratification bill. It is not out yet. I was expecting to see it this week. It may still drop today. The minute it does, I will shoot an email out to you, Bob, and the stormwater subcommittee, so we can distribute it to the group. I'm expecting a clean ratification bill.
Jeff, I read the installation of waterway markers, and I love to have a little a laugh this morning. So, want to give me your thoughts?
I thought it's kind of silly because navigation aids are regulated by the Coast Guard and they would probably say they've kind of occupied the authority to regulate them. But we have, state has informational markers. They have the authority to regulate those. But I saw it as kind of a waste of paper.
And so they want to put breakaway plastic markers and floating buoys instead of wood and steel, posted signs.
And the Coast Guard is just going to say no. So again, I kind of think it's a waste of paper.
I'm just trying to figure out which one of these folks ran into a waterway marker when they were on their boat.
I don't know. Yeah, it probably is a feel good bill. Yeah, you may be right. That may be the reason for it. I think if it's an informational marker, they can do whatever they want. But if it's a nav aid, I think the Coast Guard is going to say, nope, we have standards. They're going to have to meet the standards.
Sorry to interrupt, Jeff. Brent has a good question for you about the potential ratification bill. Brent?
Of course. Yep. Sorry, I haven't been monitoring the chat.
No problem. Jeff, I was just wondering, when you said you expected a clean ratification bill, does the word clean imply that you expect it to be implemented without any changes?
I do. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I just ask one question? Maybe this is in the weeds, but I've had a couple clients ask me, if it goes through and it's ratified July 1st, does that mean that a permit application that was filed on, say, June 1st will fall under the new rules, even if it's in an RAI during the implementation date, or you need to have your permit prior to July 1 for the new rules or the old rule to stay in effect?
It's actually, that's a perfectly reasonable question, and it is none of the above. It's more complicated than that. Let me see if I can very quickly, with 5 minutes left, I have this highlighted, so I think I can do this. Yep. 1 second. I love these. I love the stump the chump part of this call. The new rule in the applicant's handbook. We've gone through this in the stormwater committee. So those of you who have been on one of those calls, you have already heard this. It is in applicant's handbook 3. Should know this by now.
Yes, you
1-4, I think. 312 sub. As soon as I find it, I will put it on the screen. 1 second.
Thank you.
There's no way I'm going to be able to talk and look at the same time. Otherwise, I would already be answering your question.
No problem.
Hey, Jeff, I can jump in here for 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
For Brent, and add to it anything we may have found out since. But the last we heard, and this was back before the holidays, was that the Senate was going to pass the ratification bill as is. But the Senate president left open the idea of she would entertain changes in separate legislation.
Yeah.
So there could be changes, but it won't be on the ratification bill because that in effect you could cause them to have to just start over. We have not heard anything in the House, or at least I haven't, as to what their plans are. So I spoke with Rusty over at the Home Builders, and he was kind of resigned to the fact that it was going to pass as is in the Senate, but there could be changes in separate legislation, and he didn't have any update from the House, but I do plan to call him this afternoon. So if I find out anything new, I'll let you know.
Thanks, Don. Do they have a member that is motivated to file this type of legislation that would maybe tweak it after the ratification?
I'm not exactly sure. I know there's several players in here. I think on the Senate side, the main one is Mayfield.
Okay.
In Overdorf. Yeah, Mayfield and Overdorf have both said that they're interested in tweaks.
Gotcha. Okay.
So to answer your question, so let's assume that it is ratified this session without changes. So that would mean we're looking at, this is the version of the applicant's handbook that was filed with the Department of State last March. So this is the adopted rule, but doesn't have an effective date. So this gets replaced would be replaced by July 1, 2024 if it is ratified this year. So everywhere you see effective date, just think July 1, 2024 right here, for example. So what this says, this is the grandfathering provisions, which is 312. They go A, B, C, and then D, E. So we're in E, and then you go down to 4. This is my favorite one. This is probably the most important sentence in the whole applicant's handbook if you are trying to tell a client when they would be subject to the new requirements. So what it says is here, and I'm gonna replace these brackets with actual dates, assuming July 1 is the effective date. So project or activities that are the subject of a general or individual permit application that is deemed complete on or before July 1, 2025 shall be exempt from the amendments to 62330 and Volume 1 adopted on July 1, 2024. And the corresponding amendments to the applicant Volume 2. So did you understand what just happened here? They delayed the effectiveness date of the new requirements 12 months after the effectiveness date of the rule.
And deemed complete means issued permit, not closed out.
Deemed complete means you have answered your last RAI. They've said, okay, you're complete, and now you're on the time clock for permit issuance.
Oh, okay, great. That's good.
You don't have to have a permit. You just have to have a complete application.
That is wonderful.
There's one other important provision, and that's a valid conceptual approval.
Oh yeah, conceptual's in a different section. So interestingly, you got to go to, so notice that this is for general or individual, but conceptual does not exist in this sentence. So in 3, so 1 and 2 are for DOT. So think about this stormwater criteria here, this section for E. 1 and 2 is for public transportation. 3 is for not public transportation. If you have an unexpired conceptual, general, or individual issued prior to July 1, 2024, then you are exempt from the amendments.
That's important.
Yep. Because this 12-month delay does not give you another 12 months to get a conceptual in place.
Okay, so the conceptuals have to be approved by
Correct.
July 1.
These actually have to be issued prior to July 1. See what they did there?
Yeah.
You have to have, to be grandfathered under the current rule, what they're saying is you have to have a permit before July 1.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
But conceptual approval,
Yeah.
conceptual approval can last for 10 plus years.
That's right.
So,
and as long as you are if you modify the permit and it's not a major modification, so this not a major modification part is going to be really important. That we're going to, I predict that there will be lots of hand wringing about these phrases here.
Yeah.
If they are not substantively different, not a major modification. Now, there are rule provisions on what constitutes a major modification. So, there'll be hand wringing about which subletter you fall under. But this, I think it's important that it says or. So this is a prescriptive determination because major modification is defined in the rule. But this or word means you also can travel under this does not cause substantively different water resource impact. So this is kind of like the old de minimis statute. So it may not meet the rule for minor, it technically is major under the rule, but it doesn't, cause substantially different water resource impacts. I want to travel under that. And this or means I'm entitled to both, either. But this is going to be custom discussed for sure.
that language has been used before with the SWRP, statewide ERP. It's has not caused, in my opinion, a lot of controversy on whether or not the grandfathering applies.
No, you're right. But the requirements have gotten much more stringent now, and so I think the impetus or the effort that's going to be made to stay grandfathered is going to be, the stakes are higher now. But great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Brent.
Hi, Jeff, this is Lynn again. I did get the rule reference or the Senate bill. It's Senate Bill 1386. And it talks about operating a vessel. It also includes enforcement activities for on-site sewage treatment. And then it also has a section on wastewater treatment plans as part of a basin management action for nutrients. So
Wow.
Senate Bill 1386.
1386. That's a great one. Yep. Okay. I think I have it on my list. I wonder why it wasn't on. You know what? I added this. Yeah, this just got filed this week. I saw it here. Sorry, it wasn't on the PDF. There are a couple of bills now. So Laura, I need to get an updated list to you to get added to the PDF. There have been a few bills filed this week, so I sincerely apologize. I know I'm running a little long, but let me grab these last 3 bills here. This mitigation credits bill by TrueNow is really similar to the other mitigation related bill. I'll click on it real quick and it says no related bills. But this, I know what this is. This is so you can use credits from the basin next door if you're out of credits in your current area, and it also allows governments to get proposals from public or private bankers to use their land for mitigation banks. So this is the way to get more credits into the marketplace. Sorry. 1386. Yeah, this is interesting, and I'm sorry I drew a blank when you asked about it. I think I read this one. Qualification. Oh, okay, yeah. This is the water well. There's a water well contractor license examination bill. I did read this. Not terribly interesting unless you're in the water well drilling or construction business. It's pretty slow. Oh, sorry. I realize I'm not even sharing my screen. My fault. Let me do that real quick. Yeah, so I'm going to add these three here, Laura, for the tracker, so we can send an updated version. These were all filed. These came out of bill filing this week, and there may be a couple more bills today and Monday or Tuesday morning if it's really last minute, and we'll add those to the tracker, so they'll be on next week's tracker. Here's 1386 Macala to Ude. Does not yet have a house companion and has a few different things in here. So there's aquatic preserve, can't operate a vessel outside lawfully marked channel. So that's interesting. The Florida hub, a flood hub. So this is I think a public-private partnership affiliated with Resilience Florida. There's the OSTDS provision in here, and this domestic wastewater treatment plan, BMAP, this is related to 1379. I did not read anything in here that would affect the regulation of wastewater treatment plants. I see this as septic tank tweaks in here. There's no companion bill yet in the House and hasn't been calendared or referenced in the committees. But thanks, Lynn, for reminding me that there are more bills than what's on our list.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Jeff, if you don't mind, before you close, I just have a couple housekeeping items for everybody for next week. We hope that we're going to see you for PE days next Tuesday and Wednesday. If you have not already registered, online registration is closed. You can register on site at the ACEC Hotel. Look at our website or contact our office in Tallahassee for further information on that. The team assignments were distributed via email. I believe it was yesterday. Those teams will be discussed and set up again on site on Tuesday afternoon in advance of the legislative briefing that will take place, followed by the reception at the Old Capitol. And we have the legislative breakfast the following morning, followed by your appointments from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So thank you for everyone who has registered. We look forward to seeing you. And we did have a couple questions in the chat regarding will we be having a DEP meeting during PE days? The answer is no. We're going to look to schedule a standalone in future when the timing makes sense. So thank you everybody for your participation. If there are any follow-up questions regarding PE days, feel free to reach out to me, Jeff, or Alan. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I don't have anything else unless there's anything else to go to the order. I'll wish you all a happy Friday and have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Very good, Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.